They say the mic is hot. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Let's turn it a little bit more this way. There we go. Oh, this is fantastic. Got my drink. Needs a new paint job for this thing. All right, that's all right. I'll take a little sip of some hot tea. So I had a conversation with somebody earlier today. By the way, welcome. Welcome to Tomato Talk, where it's top of mind, advancing through obstacles. Advancing, this is always the case, right? Let's go put our comments on over here. Pay attention to any comments that come through. So it's always about advancing through whatever. Always. Because if we don't advance, we don't move forward. What are we doing? We're existing. Just existing. I don't know how many of us really want to just exist, although is there times that we probably should just exist? In other words, do we take a day off every once in a while? Oh, I got my audience listening to that one, huh? Do we have to be productive every moment of every day as we go through it? Sometimes I feel like we should. We always should be doing something. And then you feel guilty. I feel guilty about not doing something, about not totally utilizing the time the whole way through. But I don't know. Perhaps resting does make sense. The question was posed a little bit differently this morning. Now I was sitting there talking with somebody. Had to do with prayer. Is it good to take time out to go and pray each day, morning, afternoon, evening? Depends upon how religious you are. I guess maybe what religion you practice, the rest of that stuff. It takes time, doesn't it? It takes time in order to do that, to focus on that. Well, if you're focusing on that, it then takes away from something else. Good or bad. So I was thinking about that one from a couple of different points of view. And I'm going back to days when I knew I was going to be leaving the office early. So I didn't have an 8-hour day. I had a 4-hour day. Did you accomplish? I know I did, but would you accomplish the same amount of work within that 4-hour period that you would in an 8-hour period? Most of the time, the answer is yes. So how do you do that? That means we're actually spending an awful lot of time during the course of the day doing things we don't need to do, shouldn't do, that are time wasters throughout the day, but they're sprinkled in. Sprinkles like sprinkles on an ice cream. Is it needed? Just a little extra something that gets tossed in there. But we don't even pay attention to that. So there's one of these business books that I read was talking about that at some level. Like, how do you spend your day? And I remember coming home during that period of time and wife said, what'd you do today? I was like, big picture stuff, big items. I could remember smaller stuff. It's like, I don't know, man. The day just disappears. So I kept a time log. It was at the suggestion of this book to keep a time log and then to write down. And this was tedious, man. I'll give it to you. But to write down every minute throughout the entire day what you were doing, regardless of what it was. It didn't really matter. I was like, man, alive, how in the world am I going to do this? So it, gave you the worksheet to do, and it was to set up an Excel spreadsheet. Set up an Excel spreadsheet. Just we had a big box for you to write in. Then you had two smaller boxes to the left of it. And one of those small, and it's for each and every line, one of those smaller boxes you'd number it 1, 2, 3. Important, kind of important. What am I doing? Not really important at all. Made a difference to write that in there in the course of the day. Not really big. You can always go back on it. The other column made a lot more sense. The other column was time. Whatever time of the day it was, right down to the minute. Right down to the minute. So you started your day at 9 o'clock. Okay, 9 o'clock. What am I doing? 9 o'clock. I'm sitting there drinking my coffee, sitting down, went to go get a cup of coffee, sat down, I don't know, opened the mail, did whatever it was. What I did is that every time somebody came in to talk with me, I wrote that down. Every time I looked for a file, I wrote that down. Every time I reviewed a document, picked up the phone or had the phone ring, wrote it down. And it took time to do. Did it for a week. That was the goal. That was the thing. So you had to do it for a week. So I did it for a week. And it was pretty interesting what I learned, let's say at the end of that week. It was a couple of things. One of them, never expected, just never expected. And this goes in, it ties all into those sprinkles throughout the day. It's like, where did our day go? And why maybe we shouldn't feel so bad about doing other things over the course of the day. And maybe this really makes sense at home because distraction, if you're working from home, might have been other distractions that get tossed into the equation. But so I kept a log. As soon as I got into the office, I started doing it. It wasn't just so much as 9 o'clock because I got in. Whatever time I got in, I was actually going to the gym in the morning and then started my day actually a bit earlier. So I'd start writing 8 o'clock, 8:30. Boom, did it. Got the coffee, fantastic. Sat down, file. Started going through paperwork, looking for a file. Wrote that down. Then somebody came in and talked to me. I write that down. Went back to that file, wrote that down. Went back to looking for that file, wrote that down. Kept doing this throughout the whole thing. Here's what I learned over the course of the week. One, that was tedious. You just really had to be set on that goal of doing it. So, one thing that had to happen, my desk had to be clean enough for me to have that sheet there. Otherwise, as I was looking for the sheet, I found I had a wide gap because I just didn't write down. But I wrote it down, kept the sheet. So, one, kept a cleaner desk. Actually, put it in a little bit of a binder. This way, I had to write then and there. Then I'd write it out. Now, I'd write down anytime I was looking for something, anytime I was doing something. I wrote down every time somebody came into the office. Bob, 9:10. Spoke to Bob about stuff. 9:20. Bob left. Back to my thing. Mary, Joe, Jill, wrote them all down. Stuff like that. Day two, when they came into my office, like, what are you doing? I remember my desk was clean. I had this notebook that was there and I had this sheet. Maybe they didn't notice it in the beginning, but they noticed it as we went along and they wanted to know what I was doing. Now, again, had a longer conversation. What are you doing? I had this conversation, went through it pretty quickly and the whole way through. Here were some of the comments that they gave me. Besides the that I was doing something like that, whether they thought it was interesting or stupid, don't really know. But it was. I was the assistant manager at the time, so I'm not going to get feedback like that. But a common comment they gave to me was, I don't want to waste your time instead of talking about things that really had nothing to do with the business or nothing to do with what was at hand. So all of a sudden, when Bob, Mary, Jill, Dave, all the rest of them came into the office, those conversations I noticed as I kept this log were no longer 10 minutes in length. They were 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Occasionally they were longer, depending on what it was, but it was business. It wasn't just everything else. How's it going? What'd you do over the weekend? What are you doing the next weekend? Those conversations dropped by the wayside. They didn't become non-existent because we're still communicating. We're still this social atmosphere, a social bunch. But all of a sudden, those conversations became much more time efficient. That was an interesting one, a takeaway that I never imagined. I also took a look to see what I was doing was I was filing. My filing system needed quite the improvement, and I was looking for things way too long, not retrieving them. Takes you a minute, takes you 2 minutes to go and go to the file cabinet, open it up, pull out the file, get the piece of paper that was in there that you were looking for, or get the document you were looking for and sit down. Takes time to do that. That's all well and good. But where it wasn't making sense was finding the file. Yikes, that was bad. I was spending too much time finding things, not getting them. So that was a learning moment that got tossed into that equation. And I realized too that I could run my day much more efficiently by doing that. So the other thing I realized is the three takeaways. One was that other people saw that as a way for me of increasing efficiency and to reduce the time doing that. Two, the thing that was much more in my control, because I did welcome those conversations. Two, the thing that was much more in my control was that I was not as organized as I should be. It wasn't okay, here's a piece of paper. I deal with the paper, I sign it, I need to keep it, I then put it away into the file where it belongs then, not saving it for some other time in order to go into it, but I then put it away then. And all these file cabinets were in my office. So it wasn't like had to go traipsing across the room in order to go someplace and do it. So it's all right there. So I was able to do that. And the other thing I found is that by spending more time getting organized, writing out that time log, putting stuff away, and spending more time making sure that the room is neat and clean in the beginning and making sure that I knew what my top priorities were for the next day that I wanted to accomplish was better too, because that 9 o'clock start, that was a very slow start because it was coffee and it's like, okay, now what do I need to do today? So I found that the more I wrote things down, the better I was at doing that. So I wound up creating a whole lot of time because I was working more efficiently. So let's go back to the other thing over the course of your day. If you take out time over the course of your day to do that thing that's not necessarily business, but it keeps you on track, it keeps you more engaged, it keeps you fresher, is that really a waste of time? Or is it what really keeps you going? Maybe that is actually what keeps your interest going in whatever it is that you're doing because you're doing your thing, which you may find exciting, may not find exciting, but you're doing your thing what you get paid for, doing it in an efficient manner where it's like, okay, I need to do this. I could spend an hour on it right now. Boom, power block was a word mentioned a long, long time ago too. Uh, I remember that. It's like, oh, you do a power block. I'm like, what's a power block? And explained it out. But if you are doing your job, the thing that you might not enjoy that much, but you need to do, and you're doing it quickly, and maybe it's a task that you don't enjoy doing, and even though you have your own business, right? You need to do the books, keep the books, uh, purchase, sales, inventory, that kind of thing, and it's not terribly exciting, but you need to do that. You need to cold call. You need to be out there prospecting, and you need to spend an hour a day doing it, and you do a phone call every once in a while, versus focusing on doing phone calls or responding to emails or going on social media for a set amount of time and getting yourself ready to do that. You could probably do that a lot more efficiently. And what do we do with the rest of that time? So if you took out time during the course of the day, and again, this whole thing began with the idea of setting aside time for a daily prayer. If you set aside time for that each day, morning, in the afternoon, evening, or just in the morning, or just in the evening, whatever you do, and that keeps you more engaged and it gives you a better feeling of you, then it's not a bad idea, right? Definitely not a bad idea. Same thing going to the gym. When I was commuting, I had it was like an hour long commute. Well, 45 minutes if I went off rush hour, hour, hour and a quarter, sometimes hour and a half during rush hour. So what I did is I wound up joining a gym in the morning. I would join the gym that opened up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was there at 6 o'clock in the morning. Well, with the amount of time I spent at the gym and driving, where it took me 45 minutes as opposed to sitting in traffic, I then got to the office a little bit earlier than I needed to get to the office. But I got there. I wasn't bored, frustrated to tears with sitting in traffic for so long. I also had my exercise in during each and every morning. Man, I was wide awake, ready to go. I did find through that time log that my most efficient time was in that morning, that first 2 hours before everybody else showed up, or first hour before everybody else showed up. And that was especially if I had my what am I doing today list, my priority list done in advance. That was fantastic. That was my big takeaway. So if you were to take that time to go pray, if you were to take out time to go exercise in the middle of the day, if you were to take out time and go for a walk in the middle of the day, and you are working efficiently enough at what you are doing, not only is that not a time waster, that could be a big energy boost. That could be a big motivational boost, for yourself, knowing that you have that tossed into the equation. Look, I do this thing each and every day. Does it take time? Yeah. Uh, would I take a lunch hour or set aside time to eat anyhow? Yeah. So I enjoy this. I do this. This gets me all kind of, the adrenaline flowing and the rest of that kind of stuff and pumped up. So I'm doing this whole thing. My morning routine, I do without a doubt. And keep going with the whole thing. It keeps me going as the throughout the entire day. It gives me I don't know, sometimes it gives me the energy to go and do it, but other times we need to take a little bit of a break. And well, in all honesty, full disclosure, I have a tough time with that. I'd much rather keep going rather than taking a break and not doing anything. I'd rather do something. It's a work in progress, without a doubt. But I don't see anything wrong with taking a break to go exercise in the middle of the day. You want to blend it out a little bit. Next time you're on a conference call or a phone call with somebody, non video, just an audio call, and it's a nice day outside, go for a walk. You put your earbuds in, the rest of that stuff. Nobody even knows. Not driving, but walking. Go for a walk. Do it outside. It sounds fine. You're focused. It's good. Walk someplace where you don't have to worry about navigating traffic or anything like that, and then go. It's a nice way to blend the two things in. Maybe you wind up having a longer phone call because you're a bit more relaxed. Maybe you're a bit more focused on the phone call because you don't have those interruptions that is sitting in front of you on the desk either, or somebody walking into your office, something like that. And if you're working from home, same kind of thing. This working from home has created all kinds of opportunities and challenges. Has it not? You know, you're working from home. It's like, okay, well, now I don't have to commute. We save that time. I don't commute that 45 minutes anymore. That was a long time ago. I was commuting a lot less, but now to a great extent, working from home anyhow with a portion of my day. So have that free time, and that frees me up to do other things too. And then working from home creates the other challenge that goes into it too, because I could work at any time. A lot of what I do is looking at things that were done already. I don't want to go into what I do, but looking at things that were done already, which is what I kind of do. And so I could do that at any time. It doesn't matter if I do that 9 to 5 or I do it at 1 o'clock in the morning or if I do it at 6 o'clock in the morning. So that becomes a little bit of a interesting one in there too. It either frees up time, it takes up time all over the place. So it's different. I give you folks a lot of credit, without a doubt. Those that work from home, those that have always been working remotely, the entrepreneurs, true solo entrepreneurs. You You who really are in charge of absolutely everything over the course of your day, where you are the employee and everything else is outsourced that goes along with it. But you are the one in total control of your day. You're in control of marketing and you do the marketing. You are the one in control of keeping the records and you keep the records. You are the one that's in control of actually doing the work also. It's a lot. That's a lot for you to do. Should you be outsourcing a little bit more? Well, you know what? We've broached on that topic. Maybe I'll have somebody on. We could talk about outsourcing. But right now, the thing is time. How are you spending your time? And should you take a little bit of a break every once in a while in order to recharge, refocus, and get yourself back to where you should be? So when you are spending time doing something, you're doing it fully. And without a doubt, that was the biggest takeaway from doing that time log. The biggest takeaway of them all. When those people came in to talk to me, they spoke with me. We spoke about the business and we did that fully, fully, completely, succinctly, and we were done. Any power block that was done, anything that was reviewing the mail for the day, it was like, okay, boom, did the mail, closed the door, went for that half hour, 45 minutes, hour, however long it took, depending upon how much mail was coming through. That was what it was. That was it. No interruptions. Boom. I was able to go through it quicker, more efficiently, and with less distractions. Granted, there was always that one off. Somebody would knock on the door where it had to happen immediately, or the phone would ring, it would have to happen. So there is no set in stone here. There's no absolute answer with the whole thing. It's not like you're putting yourself into some silo somewhere and nothing else. You can't do anything else. But the more we can do that, the more we can break ourselves into or the more we can compartmentalize our time, I think the more efficiently we'll wind up operating. And then that would be how we would be able to do more throughout the day, which also in turn means that we could do more of those other things, interact with people from an exercise standpoint, from a prayer standpoint, from a go out to lunch standpoint, and do things like that. You know, and you do it, and not only are you just getting that done and in, but you're probably enjoying your time doing that too, because you know that you did everything else more efficiently and making that work. Sounds like a perfect world. And never is. It never is. You know, even in the weeks after when I stopped doing the time log and now or at any point in time, it's never perfect. But if we're able to do this in that and hold true that 80-20 rule, where 80% of the time you're pretty much sticking to your guns and making it work, and that other 20% of the time, things happen. You get involved with something. It's like, what if you start thinking about wouldn't it be interesting if we could accomplish something where you speak to somebody that's got like nothing to do with anything and you explore something that becomes a time waster? Well, you know what? So what? That's where opportunities come from too. And then maybe that's part of the instead of exercising, it's that wow, what if conversation. I always find them fun. I find them to be more energizing than anything else. And then you get back to doing the other stuff. It's like, maybe you lose a little bit of enthusiasm, with that. So plan your day accordingly. On those things you have to do, those things that are not that exciting to do, nail them in the morning. Get them done. Get them done. Just go. Stay focused. Get them done. Figure out when you're going to be doing the exercise. Figure out when you're going to have those what if phone calls. Figure out exactly and know exactly what it is that you need to accomplish the next day. This way, when you come into your office in the morning or when you come into your office in the afternoon, whatever you come into your office, you're coming into that thing truly knowing what you want to accomplish and how to get the day going. That was another thing that I wound up doing. I read all these business books, right? I was like, oh, it was great. It was wonderful. It was good. And then I realized, man, they all just started repeating themselves time after time after time. The big takeaway was that time log. I thought that was great. Another one was also having a worksheet. So as you're going through your day, I have your business plan sheet, a daily worksheet. So as you're going through your day, on those things that you need to do and those phone calls you make, write down the phone call that you made and whatever the outcome is. If it's follow up, it's follow up. If it's done, and that's good. If it's somebody calling in and needs something, you can't do it today, you put it down on the sheet. So at the end of your day, what you're doing is you're going through that sheet, and then you have a new sheet right in front of you. This is where I started putting in these books, right? Otherwise, it was pieces of paper all over the place. But then you have in the top of those things, what is it that I need to do, or what your morning routine is. So I had 5 different things that I had to do each and every morning, 5 different programs I would look at to review things. And then there's the list of things from the prior day that had to be followed up on. Had to call Bob back on something, had to build something else, or complete a project, that was going on, had to research something, whatever those were. So now what happened when I came in the morning, I had that there. Also had a few other things that were a little bit more personal. It was like how many prospecting calls I wanted to make. They were all calls back in the day, but how many prospecting calls I wanted to make. And then also was drinking water. Yeah, drinking water. It was 6 cups of water I wanted to make sure that I completed each and every day. So I had that down there. Numbered out 1 through 6, circled each one as I went through the whole thing. This way, I had the day, I had a process in place that would help me get my day started, and it actually helped me get my day ended too, because I finished the day by going through the sheet and writing up what I was going to accomplish, or what I was aiming to at least accomplish the next day. So it was all there. But the bottom line, all of these things, although it was cumbersome in the beginning to get used to that routine, it was definitely cumbersome. Explain to everybody about this time log thing. And there was a few people wondering what I was doing. I was keeping notes on them. I was not keeping notes on them, but I was keeping track of time spent, with them. And there was a few other side benefits they can go along too. Came to realize who I spoke to a lot, who I didn't speak to. So again, I was in a management role at the time. I wanted to make sure we spoke to everybody. So that was another thing I worked on at some point in time, making sure I did sit down and have a business conversation with folks on a quarterly basis. This way I could just touch base by the writing business plans, a whole bunch of different things. But that was much more specific to that role. This, what I'm talking about, is what we can all do. One, keep track of your time. And when you write out the time on everything, you'll see where you're spending the time. Two, and I didn't mention it before, you were numbering things. You're giving things a 1, 2, 3. You're looking to see if you were spending time on one, those things that were really important. Two, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. You don't know. All good. And three, waste of time stuff. So if you could reduce out the waste of time stuff, all the better. If you could do that. But coming into the day or ending the day, going through your sheet of what you accomplished, gives you a nice feeling that, hey, you know what? This is what I did, and this is what I was able to complete. And then, two, having that sheet set up for the next day where at least have a good starting point, know what you're going to wind up doing and want to do and want to get done for the day. That's great. That really is great. So you could turn around these names and all the rest of that stuff and change it into things, right? Buddy of mine, I had a conversation with him a while back about this kind of thing because he is working from home. He's always been solo, always. He does it. He gets his. He does mostly his own marketing, or he's in charge of the marketing. Uh, Hell, if you're a solo entrepreneur, you're in charge of everything. But the marketing effort is one aspect of it. The training, the coaching, the speaking, all of that's his. Keeping the websites current, all that's it. Granted, he does outsource stuff, but he's got to come up with what he wants things to look like. So that stuff is there. So I asked him about this. Like, how do you do this stuff? He didn't use the word time log or anything like that, but he did use the word high impact items. He made sure that he did X amount of high impact items each and every day. What are they? I guess it really depends upon you as to what you would consider a high impact item. If you were in sales and you already had your leads in front of you, high impact item, it's making a sales pitch. If you need to build that marketing list, high impact item for you is to create that marketing list and figure out how to fill it up with names, how to fill up, as another friend of mine says, your pipeline. Figure it out. Keep track of what you're doing during the course of the day, because the more you can do your day efficiently, well, you know what? Then the more you could go for a walk. Bring the phone with you. Do that. The more you could go. If you got to go and you're part of your religious community, you take the time and go and do that, or exercise when it's right for you to exercise. Start your day properly. Do all of this stuff properly. That'll give you a lot more confidence, for one. I think it'll give you a lot more enthusiasm to do the things that you don't necessarily care to do. And it'll give you a lot more time to do those things that you love to do. And if you're doing that, that is without a doubt a great success formula. And I don't care where you're at along this path to succeed. That's it. Go figure it out. Just track it first. Track first as to what you're doing, then go take a look and see what you learned from that and move on from there. That's one of the great ways for you to conquer your own little challenges in there, you know, advance through those obstacles that we all have. But you got to know the obstacles and then make it work that way. Hey, thanks for spending the last couple of minutes with me. Absolutely great. It is Friday, so enjoy the weekend. It's getting a little warmer outside, right over here on Long Island. So go out and walk. Walk with your phone. Talk to somebody if you wish. But just go out and walk. Get a little exercise in. And it's a great way to energize the body and make it work that way. And as you're doing that, remember, do what you do. Speak well, speak often, and live inspired.